Hey, what's up guys, Phil here, and in this video I'll be introducing to you the IceGone defrosting tray, a low-tech kitchen gadget that promises to defrost frozen meats and other foods in a fraction of the time versus open-air defrosting and other competing methods. So first off, I have to let you guys know that this product isn't currently available to buy in stores or online, so a big thank you to Unitrend for sending me one of their prototypes to test. If you are interested in getting one of these for yourself, I'll put a link to their Kickstarter project below, and you can reserve one or multiple by backing their project. At first glance, the IceGone looks like a simple metallic tray. It measures 8¼ inches by 13½ inches and is about ½ an inch thick, weighing a little over 2 pounds or about 1 kilo. It's got a rectangular shape with plastic grips on the sides that also have small bump-out feet on the bottom to raise the plate up from your countertop. No big deal, right? But flip it over, and you'll find it has these heat transfer fins all along the bottom, and these increase the rate of heat transfer to or from the environment and whatever is sitting on top of the plate. So the metal used in the plate is an aluminum alloy. It is highly thermoconductive, and sealed inside is a heat transfer fluid, which helps move the heat from the environment into the frozen item on top of the plate. To show how this works, I'm going to take an ice cube straight out of my freezer and place it in this cup. Then I'll take another ice cube from the same ice cube tray and put it on the IceGone, and we'll record how much time it takes to completely melt one ice cube at room temperature, and right now it's about 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius in this room. I should point out that my table isn't completely level, which is why the ice cube is sliding into the bottom corner like that. I tried moving it back into the middle of the IceGone a couple times during this demo, but actually it doesn't seem to matter where it's placed as long as whatever you're melting has good surface contact with any part of the top of the tray. After about 75 seconds, you can see how much the ice cube on the IceGone tray has melted, while the ice cube in the glass is still pretty solid. Keep in mind both the cup and the tray started at room temperature. Let's speed this up a little. And right around 7 minutes, I'm going to call it. The ice cube on the IceGone is completely melted, and the ice cube in the cup is maybe a quarter of the way there. Now you probably noticed that the ice cube made a little bit of a mess, because as you can see, there's barely any sort of lip on the top of the tray to catch drippings and runoff, maybe a millimeter or less. Not a problem if you're working with meats that have low water content like steaks or pork, but if your food is very icy or may release a lot of liquid, you might want to set the IceGone in a larger tray or cookie sheet or on a towel to catch any drippings. Alternatively, if you do choose to back this project on Kickstarter, you'll have the option to add on a washable silicone drying mat, which would serve this purpose. It's probably not a surprise that after you've defrosted something on the tray, it will be quite cold to the touch. I also noticed that the plastic feet do nothing to keep the tray from sliding around on your counter, which would be another benefit of getting the silicone undermat to stabilize the tray and keep it from sliding. FYI, the timer is still running, and we're up around 13 minutes. The ice cube in the cup still hasn't melted. Moving on, let's defrost these two hamburger patties side by side. And to be fair, I'll place both of them meat side down so the parchment paper doesn't act as an insulator on either surface. Watch the center of the patty on the tray closely, as you can actually see some of the ice on top of the parchment fade within the first 30 seconds. Let's see that again. So one of the really important things for the success of this tray is contact with the aluminum surface. You can actually see here that there's a bit of an air gap between the uneven surface of the burger and the tray. So I'll be interested to see how that affects the defrosting time. Alright, it's been about 8 minutes, and the top of the patty on the IceGone is still pretty hard, but the bottom feels a bit squishy, so I can tell it's melted a bit. Meanwhile, the patty on the plate is still like a hockey puck, and you can see how it shifts around like a solid block. Let's flip these guys over and do a scratch test. Back up. Check this out. The plate is completely dry where the patty was sitting. But when I flip the one on the IceGone, you can see some melt liquid here. Alright, so the plate burger is still really hard. I can't even scratch the surface of it. The timer is still going at 9 minutes, and oh, we've definitely defrosted part of the patty here. I'm able to pull through about 1/4 of an inch through the ground beef. Now the defrosting at this point is not quite even, and that's because, as I showed earlier, the entire patty wasn't making contact with the tray's surface. So anywhere there was an air gap, the meat is still pretty frozen, but wherever it was touching is already partly defrosted. So now we'll see how well the burgers defrost with the parchment paper under them, since this creates a little bit of a heat transfer barrier between the meat and the tray. The ice cube in the cup, by the way, still hasn't completely melted after half an hour. Alright, these burgers have been defrosting about 15 minutes total, so let's check if I can pull that paper off. Okay, that was pretty easy. And this one? Still completely dry underneath, but has at least released its hold on the paper, though it's still stuck a little. We'll do the scratch test on this side, and okay, I can also get about 1/4 of an inch down through this one. Still frozen in the center, but a few minutes more and I think it'd be thawed completely. The patty on the plate? Still rock solid. In fact, if I take the IceGone patty, I can probably, break it up at this point, because it is mostly defrosted. The plate patty? It won't even bend a little, and it's still pretty much an ice cube. So on to washing. It's pretty straightforward, like washing a serving dish. Give it a rinse with warm water, and wipe with the soft side of a soapy sponge, then rinse it off. You're not really cooking on it, so you don't need to scrub hard. And for defrosting stuff, nothing's really going to stick to it unless it's syrupy and has a lot of sugar in it. So even when defrosting raw meat, you don't need to treat it any differently than a regular dinner plate that had raw meat on it. The surface is non-porous, so there are no crevices that could harbor bacteria. It's even dishwasher safe, though hand washing is simple enough and I just let it rack dry. I was curious to see how it would perform with several frozen items stacked together, so I'm going to try defrosting some frozen sliced cheese. And again, the cheese isn't completely flat, so originally I'd placed it with the curved side down. But I realized that this left a pretty significant air gap in the middle, so I decided to flip it over, since the right-hand side is mostly flat and makes better contact with the tray. Now, I was expecting that over time, the left side of the cheese, which is above the tray, would soften and drop down as the cheese defrosted. But here's what actually happened over the course of 20 minutes. Not much change to the curvature of the cheese. I actually thought that this meant that the cheese hadn't defrosted at all, but I was completely wrong. What ended up happening was the part of the cheese that was directly above the section that did make contact with the tray was completely thawed, but only up until the point where the cheese curved upward and away from the tray, and the section that wasn't touching was still completely frozen. So while I could easily separate the right side of the cheese, I could not peel apart the frozen side without breaking the slices. So unintentionally, I'd constructed a controlled experiment, again demonstrating that the tray does indeed thaw out food faster than food left out at room temperature. I did, however, actually want to eat the cheese, so I decided to flatten it out and defrost the rest of it by making sure the frozen side had good contact with the IceGone's surface. I'll speed up the next few minutes. And just 5 minutes later, I was able to easily peel apart and separate the slices. And here's the slice that I broke earlier when it was still half frozen at the 20-minute mark. And you can see now that it's completely pliable and thawed. That's amazing. So in conclusion, do I think the IceGone works? Yes, 100%. For optimal performance, you should stick to defrosting things that have at least one flat surface that'll make good contact with the tray, and is no more than 1 or 2 inches thick, like steaks, fish fillets, chicken breast, or hamburger patties. For foods that are thick or may have air gaps between the food and the tray, defrosting may take longer, and be uneven unless you manually flip or turn the food so more frozen surfaces can contact the tray's surface. Speed when defrosting is key to safe food handling, and you always want to make sure to cook or refrigerate the food as soon as it's done thawing. If you can't defrost your food on the IceGone completely within 20 minutes, like a whole chicken, then you're better off defrosting it in the fridge. Also, if the IceGone isn't large enough, you can place 2 of them together and defrost across both of them. Or if you need to defrost several things on the same tray one after another, you'll want to rinse the tray with warm water in between defrosting to bring its core temperature back up to room temperature. But be careful not to use hot water because the tray will hold onto that heat, and you don't want to cook the food you set on it, nor create a warm enough environment where bacteria could multiply. Also, as an added benefit, that means the tray can also absorb heat from hot foods, cooling them down quickly so you don't burn your fingers or mouth. So once again, thank you to Unitrength for sending me over their prototype IceGone tray for me to try out. They're also going to release a black anodized aluminum colored version, so be sure to check out their Kickstarter page using my link below for support tiers and their associated rewards. And if you decide to back the project and reserve 1, or 2, or 3, I'll automatically get a little something for the referral at no extra cost to you. There are only a few days left to back this project, but it's already fully funded multiple times over, so more than likely, this is happening. And if the final product is anything like this prototype, I think you're gonna love it. I hope you enjoyed this review. You can ask me any questions in the comments, and join me next time.